But first, what a waste. You know, my first reaction to these latest floods is, of course, sympathy for the people having their homes flooded, their businesses ruined, their crops and fencing swept away. But my second reaction is anger. I mean, just look at all this water. We could have stored it, at least some of it, to drought-proof our cities and many irrigators for generations. So why are we letting all this water go to waste? Well, yesterday, I got a hint. I read this headline in the far left Age newspaper: climate risk for dams revealed as the Eildon Dam struggles to hold back floods. And I thought, wait a minute. I remember just 10 or 15 years ago, we were told the climate risk was the exact opposite, that global warming meant our dams actually wouldn't fill. Here, for instance, is Tim Flannery, the man that Labor made our Chief Climate Commissioner back in 2007.
Even the rain that falls isn't actually going to fill our dams and our river system.
Now, I love playing that because the man's a fool, but Flannery wasn't alone. Global warming experts around the country were saying much the same, persuading gullible politicians there was no point in building dams. The Bureau of Meteorology, for instance, said we're just not going to have that sort of good rain that we had in the wet 1970s as long as the system is warming up. Melbourne Water said no to a new dam, even in 2009, when Melbourne's dam in that drought had dropped to a frightening 1/4 full, and people were banned from watering their gardens. It said a key reason why Melbourne Water still didn't support a dam included climate change. Investing billions of dollars, it said, in another rainfall-dependent water source in the face of rapidly changing climate patterns is very risky. And the Labor masters said the same. The government ruled out new dams, saying climate change meant not enough water would flow into them to make them worthwhile. That's the same Age newspaper reporting that. Now, this groupthink, unchallenged by most journalists then, turned out, of course, to be absolutely wrong, just like the groupthink that renewable energy will make your electricity cheaper. Because just look today. Melbourne's dams are at an unbelievable 98% full. Not in a quarter of a century we've seen this. Dams in Sydney, Brisbane, Adelaide, Canberra, also full or close to. Now, of course, Victoria may be Australia's maddest state, but Labor politicians elsewhere weren't much saner. Result, just 4 of the 20 dams that we have built in the last 20-odd years are outside Tasmania. Just 4. And this global warming mania has actually cost lives. 12 years ago, New South Wales Premier Christina Keneally killed a proposed dam, the Telegra on the Williams River. And one of the excuses she gave was global warming. The new dam might not fill. She said there was increased vulnerability to the effects of reduced rainfall as a result of climate change. And yet just 5 years later, Dungog, which is downstream of where that dam would have been, was flooded. About 80 homes and shops were flooded out and 3 people tragically died. People who experts say might have been saved by a dam to hold back that water. Now, Melbourne was much the same story. In 2006, Victoria's Labor government said no to a dam on the Maribyrnong, a river which goes on to flow through Melbourne's suburbs. The then Environment Minister, a real global warming believer, said there was almost no water there to dam anyway. Not enough water? In fact, last month, there was so much of it that 245 Melbourne homes were flooded. It seems our experts keep forgetting that Australia really is a land of droughts and flooding rains. Flooding rains follow droughts, which follow rains, which follow droughts. But global warming experts and politicians don't seem to get that. So in a drought, they say, well, we can't build a dam because, we'll never get the rains to fill it. Global warming. In a flood, they still say don't build the dams because, look, we've got all this terrible water anyway. Global warming. Global warming has become an excuse for not thinking and not for doing these simple things that do save lives and properties and keep our cities watered, like building dams. Well, global warming said, no, we can't do that. Much better to try to somehow change the whole world's climate so we don't get droughts or floods. How about that? Unbelievable. Meanwhile, I see all this water going to waste. And we know these floods will one day be followed by droughts, and then we'll wonder, where did all that water go?